Ever get frustrated with all the middlemen for like
Oh,
everything?
yeah?
Like when you're selling your car and there's so much paperwork and you need a notary and maybe even lawyers.
Yeah?
Makes you wonder if there isn't like a simpler way to do things.
Right.
A more streamlined way.
Definitely.
Well, that's what we're diving into today, blockchains and smart contracts.
Exactly.
First, I think it's interesting that these concepts go back way before Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like back in 1991, Stuart Haber and
W. Scott Stornetta.
W. Scott Stornetta, thanks.
Yeah.
They were already working on like time-stamping digital documents.
Exactly, making them tamper-proof.
It's tamper-proof, okay.
Which laid the groundwork for blockchain.
So it's not just about cryptocurrency then?
No, not at all.
I'll admit that's what got me interested in this whole topic in the first place, but I'm starting to realize there's a lot more to it.
Oh, for sure.
More than just that.
Yeah. In fact, even the idea of digital currency goes way back.
Oh, really?
Like in 1998, Nick Szabo proposed this thing called BitGold.
BitGold.
Yeah, a decentralized digital currency system.
Interesting.
Now, it was never actually put into practice,
Okay.
but it had a lot of the same ideas we see in blockchain today,
Like what?
like digital scarcity and cryptographic security.
Wow. Okay, so it's like the groundwork was laid for this whole revolution way back then.
Exactly.
So let's fast forward to 2009, the year Bitcoin was launched, the most famous blockchain.
Yeah.
We still don't know who Satoshi Nakamoto is, right?
Nope. Still a total mystery.
Really?
Yeah,
That's so interesting.
it is.
But whoever created it, Bitcoin was a total game changer.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It was the first successful blockchain.
Yeah, it showed that digital currency could actually work outside the traditional financial system.
Okay, so let's break this down.
Sure.
Imagine a chain of blocks, each with information about Bitcoin transactions.
Okay.
Each block is linked to the one before it using a hash.
Right.
Can you explain what a hash is?
Sure.
And why it's so important for security and blockchain?
Well, think of a hash as like a unique digital fingerprint for each block.
Okay.
You create it by running the block's data through a special algorithm,
Uh-huh.
and even a tiny change in the data
Yeah.
would completely change the hash.
Okay.
That's what makes it so secure.
Gotcha.
So if anyone tries to mess with the block,
Right.
the hash would change, break the chain, and everyone in the network would know something's wrong.
So it's like checks and balances then.
Exactly. It's
Just
self-enforcing.
self-enforcing. Okay.
And get this.
Yeah.
This chain of blocks isn't all stored in one place.
Okay.
It's spread out across the network of computers all over the world.
Oh, wow.
So it's decentralized,
Okay.
meaning there's no single point of failure or control.
Got it.
And that was a core part of Bitcoin's design.
To make it decentralized.
Yeah, to make a system that's resistant to censorship and manipulation.
I see why people are so excited about this.
Yeah.
But let's go deeper into Bitcoin itself. How does a transaction actually get recorded on the blockchain?
Okay, so imagine you're sending some Bitcoin to a friend.
Right.
That transaction gets broadcasted to the network, added to a pool of pending transactions,
Okay.
and then miners,
Miners.
yeah, these specialized computers,
Right.
they compete to solve these complex math problems.
Gotcha.
And the first miner to solve it gets to add a new block of transactions to the chain.
And that's where we get the term mining from.
Exactly.
Totally.
It's like they're digging for digital gold.
Yeah.
This process takes a lot of computer power, and the miner that solves it first gets rewarded
Reward it with.
Bitcoin,
Okay.
newly minted Bitcoin.
Gotcha.
And that's what keeps the whole network secure and running smoothly.
Interesting. So you have these miners competing to solve puzzles.
Yep.
And the blockchain is ensuring that the data is accurate.
Right.
And all this is happening without any central control.
Exactly.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is.
But I do have a question. If these miners are the ones verifying the transactions and adding blocks to the chain,
Yeah.
couldn't they manipulate the system?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it gets to the core of how consensus is reached on a blockchain.
Okay.
Bitcoin uses something called proof of work,
Proof of work.
which means the miner who solves the puzzle proves they've put in a lot of computational work.
Okay.
This makes it really hard for any one miner or even a group of miners to control the network.
And manipulate transactions.
And manipulate transactions, yeah.
So it's like a democracy then.
Kind of, but instead of voting,
Yeah.
it's all about computational power.
The more power you have, the more influence you have on the network.
Exactly.
So the Bitcoin blockchain is this revolutionary way to record and verify transactions
Yeah.
without needing a central authority.
Right.
It's secure, transparent, and built on this really clever system of incentives and cryptography.
It is.
But we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
What about smart contracts?
Yeah, that's where things get really interesting. Yeah. Smart contracts take what blockchain can do to a whole new level.
Okay.
Imagine automating complex agreements,
Uh-huh.
getting rid of middlemen,
Okay.
making transactions more efficient and transparent.
Wow.
That's the power of smart contracts.
That sounds amazing.
It is.
So we talked about blockchain basics, but let's move on to smart contracts.
Okay.
You mentioned automating agreements.
Yeah.
What does that look like in the real world?
All right. Let's say you're a musician
Yeah.
and you want to sell your music directly to your fans
Okay.
without going through a record label
Right.
or a streaming platform.
Okay.
You could use a smart contract to do that.
How?
The smart contract would automatically distribute your music to anyone who pays a certain amount of cryptocurrency.
So no more complicated royalty agreements
Yeah.
for third-party distributors?
Exactly.
That's got to be appealing to a lot of artists,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
especially independent ones.
Especially independent artists, yeah.
So the smart contract basically acts as like this digital middleman.
It handles the payment, the distribution,
Right.
even the royalty splits,
Yeah,
all according to the rules written in the code.
exactly.
It's like a self-executing vending machine for digital content.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
And because it's on the blockchain, everyone can see what the agreement is and track the transactions.
Exactly. That transparency is key.
Transparency, yeah.
It builds trust and accountability.
Which is really important when you don't have an existing relationship with the other person.
Right.
Okay, so we talked about music.
Mm.
What other areas are smart contracts impacting?
Well, one big one is decentralized finance, or DeFi.
DeFi. Okay, I've heard of that, but it's still kind of vague to me.
Yeah, well, DeFi is basically a bunch of financial applications built on blockchains,
Okay.
like Ethereum and Solana.
Uh-huh.
They're trying to create a more open and transparent financial system.
Can you give me an example?
Sure, imagine a small business owner in a developing country
Okay.
who needs a small loan,
Yeah.
but doesn't have access to a bank. That happens a lot.
It does. Well, there are DeFi platforms that connect lenders and borrowers directly.
Directly.
Yeah, they cut out the middleman using smart contracts.
Oh, wow. So they can get capital that they wouldn't have been able to get otherwise.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
It is.
So instead of relying on banks with all their rules,
Yeah.
they can use this global network of lenders.
A global network, that's right.
That's really empowering.
It is. It creates a fairer system for everyone.
Okay, so music, DeFi.
Uh-huh.
What else?
Supply chain management.
Okay.
So let's say you're importing coffee.
Coffee. All right.
You could use smart contracts to track those beans all the way from the farm to your warehouse.
Really?
Yeah. And make sure they're fair trade and helps prevent fraud.
So I could scan a QR code on my bag of coffee
Yeah.
and see where those beans came from.
You can see the whole journey
Wow.
from the farmer to the ship.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it brings in transparency and traceability that just wasn't possible before.
I can see how that would empower consumers to make more informed choices.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of the amazing possibilities here.
We have.
But let's not forget about the challenges.
Yes, of course.
Like we talked about earlier, how hard it is to change a smart contract once it's live.
Right. No technology is perfect.
Yeah.
And smart contracts are still fairly new.
Right.
We need to think about the risks.
What kind of risks?
Well, the blockchain is immutable,
Meaning?
meaning it can't be changed,
Right.
which is good for security. But it also means that once you deploy a smart contract,
Yeah.
it's really hard to change it.
Oh, okay.
So it's really important to test it thoroughly.
To make sure there are no errors.
Exactly. Because errors can be costly.
It's like launching a rocket.
Yeah,
You better make sure everything works before liftoff.
you got it.
What other challenges are there?
Well, writing secure code is hard.
Yeah.
Smart contracts often deal with valuable assets.
Right.
So any vulnerability could be exploited. It is. That's why we need more skilled developers who really understand blockchain and how to program smart contracts.
So it's not just about learning a new language.
Oh, right.
It's about understanding the security considerations.
Exactly.
Okay, what else?
Scalability.
Scalability meaning?
As more people use blockchain to deploy smart contracts, the networks can get congested,
Oh, I see.
transactions get slower, and fees go up.
So it's like any new technology then,
Yeah, pretty much.
trying to balance innovation and security and adoption.
Exactly. And people are working on improving scalability.
But it's still a work in progress.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, this is definitely a fascinating field.
It is.
And it's evolving so quickly.
All the time.
We've covered a lot today.
We have.
From the basics of blockchain to all these cool things you can do with smart contracts.
Right.
But we haven't even touched on the philosophical side of things.
Oh, yeah.
Like how this tech could empower individuals and shift power away from big institutions.
These distributed networks, yeah.
Wow, you're right. This is way bigger than just the technical stuff.
It is.
This raises questions about how our society works.
Big questions.
And who has the power?
Yeah, it's a conversation that we're just starting to have.
That's true.
And it's one that I think everyone needs to be a part of.
I agree.
As this technology gets more advanced and becomes more a part of our lives,
Yeah.
we need to understand what it means.
And shape it in a way that benefits everyone.
Exactly.
This is really making me think about the big picture here.
Yeah.
We've talked about all the technical details of blockchain and smart contracts, but it seems like this technology could change so much more than just like finance or supply chains.
Oh, yeah, it's a total paradigm shift.
Paradigm shift.
We're moving
Yeah.
away from trusting institutions
Right.
to a world where trust is built into the technology itself.
That's a big deal.
It has huge implications for everything.
Like what?
How we govern ourselves, how we interact online, all of it.
I'm really interested in this idea of individual empowerment.
Yeah.
It seems like blockchain and smart contracts could give people more control over their own data,
Absolutely.
their finances,
Yeah.
even their identities.
That's right.
Think about all the data that companies and governments have on us
A lot.
with blockchain.
Yeah.
People could actually own their own data,
Control it.
decide who gets to see it and how it's used.
Exactly.
That would be huge.
It could really shift the balance of power.
But wouldn't that create some new problems too?
Potentially.
I mean, how do you prevent people from misusing this technology?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
It's like any powerful tool. Blockchain can be used for good or bad.
Right.
We need to think about the risks
Okay.
and figure out ways to prevent them.
Like how?
For one thing, we have to think about governance.
Governance?
Yeah, like who gets to make the rules for these decentralized networks?
That's a good question.
How do we make sure the rules are fair for everyone?
Yeah.
These are complicated questions,
They are.
but they're important ones.
What about the environmental impact?
Oh, yeah.
I know some blockchains, like Bitcoin,
Right.
use a lot of energy.
They do. It's a valid concern.
Is that a problem for this technology going forward?
Well, the energy consumption of those proof-of-work blockchains is definitely something we need to deal with.
Proof of work, okay.
But that's why there's so much research happening now
On what?
on ways to use less energy,
Okay.
like proof of stake.
Proof of stake, what's that?
It's a different way of reaching consensus,
Okay.
and it's way more energy efficient.
So instead of all that mining,
Yeah.
there's a different way to do it,
Exactly.
but uses less energy.
A lot less.
Interesting.
There's a lot of innovation happening in this space.
There is.
Things are changing so fast.
It must be an exciting time to be involved in this field.
Oh, it is. It really is.
It's like the early days of the internet.
Yeah, it really is.
It's hard to predict where this will all lead,
That's true.
but I think we can all agree. It has the potential to change everything.
Just like the internet did.
I agree.
And that's why it's so important for everyone to be a part of this.
To be a part of what?
To learn about these ideas.
Yeah.
To ask questions.
Uh-huh.
To help shape the future of this technology.
I like that.
This is about more than just code.
It is.
It's about having these conversations.
Yes. Right.
About what we value.
Yeah.
And what kind of world we want to build.
That's a great point.
We've explored a lot today.
We have.
But ultimately, it's up to all of us to decide how we use this technology.
To make the world a better place.
Exactly.
Well, this deep dive has been really insightful.
Glad to hear it.
I feel like I have a much better grasp on this whole thing now.
That's great.
Not just like what blockchain and smart contracts are, but why they matter and what we can do with them.
That's the important part.
It is.
As you continue to explore this,
Yeah.
just remember to stay curious,
Okay.
keep asking questions,
Got it.
and never stop learning.
That's great advice.
I try.
Well, that about wraps it up for this episode of The Deep Dive.
Great talking to you.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of blockchain and smart contracts.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep diving deep.